Alright guys, welcome to Schmattz Outdoors. This is going to be part 2 of the Beaver put up series. So I am going to take the caster out of this Beaver. All I basically use is just my fillet knife to make a couple little cuts, and then we'll be done. I will show you how I remove it, and then I'll show you what I do with it, how I dry it, and how long I dry it at the end here. Alright, so I got this Beaver here. He's half skinned. Is usually at the point where I get around to taking the caster out of him. So your caster is right here just above the vent, and then you got oil glands on the side that you got to be kind of careful of. So typically what I do is I pinch up here above, you know, right here is like the pelvic plate or whatever, so I basically pinch just behind that, and I'm just taking a real light cut until I can see right here. You can kind of see this brainy looking stuff is your caster. And then I basically make a cut all the way down basically to the vent. This is your caster right here, this kind of weird brainy looking stuff. So we're going to take another little cut off of there. You do not want to cut your caster at all, because it will actually leak out and then it won't dry properly. So alright, so I think I got it good start. So basically I'm just trying to get the membrane around the caster kind of cut here. I don't want to like squeeze your caster, because then it actually will leak out, like your caster fluid will leak out, and one, it gets all over my table, and two, that's where your money at. You get paid by the weight, so the more that leaks out, the less, you know, the less it's worth. So alright, so there's two sides of the caster. They kind of make a Y here. I pretty well got this side cut out of the little membrane here. You want to try and remove that membrane as much as you can. There you go. So I basically just kind of pinched onto the top of it, and I'm just kind of pulling the membrane off. Okay, so that side's all loose. Again, this is just a 2-year-old Beaver, so they're not like plumb full of caster or anything like that, but it's definitely worth taking it out of there. On a bigger Beaver, I mean, you can get 4 or 5 ounces of caster out of just one Beaver. So, I mean, you make more off of the caster, or at least I do a lot of times, than I do the actual pelt. So that's why, like I said, I try to take, so basically I'm just lightly holding this the best I can, and then I'm just pinching this membrane, kind of just pulling the membrane off. Once you get it about so far, then it'll peel right out of there. Okay. So there's your casters, you know, each side. Basically what I want to do now is I go about, so here's your caster right here. I like to go about this far back, and then I'm going to cut about that much of it out. I probably leave more than I maybe should, but so I said I get about like that. Okay, and then you can kind of see here, and cut right back to the vent. Alright, so I end up getting maybe a little part of the vent and stuff there. But there you go. There are your casters out of a Beaver. If you so inclined, you could take the oil sacks out of here too. That's this little sack and this little sack. You definitely don't want to cut into those sacks. They really stink, and it gets all over everything. So that's also, when you're pulling the caster out, you got to be a little careful about that too. Again, I probably leave a little more on here than some people would, but I would rather make sure that my casters seal up real nice when I dry them, so I don't have caster leaking out. But alright guys, so I have this big Beaver here, 66 pounder. I'm gonna show you how I take the caster out of a Beaver again. So we're gonna just basically, right here is the pelvic bone. I'm gonna start just behind that, so the casters are laying right in here. And then there's oil glands kind of right on the very bottom here, which I don't want to cut into because they really stink and they make a heck of a mess if you cut into them. So what I'm going to do, I have my knife really sharp, nice and sharp. So I'm going to basically just pinch some of this fat and we're going to just trim a little of that off. Let's get it out of the way. And then we're going to pinch. Basically, I just want to cut through this little membrane, and that's it. I don't want to cut into my caster, because it's directly below. Right there's my caster, so I just want to be, I'm being a little cautious. To make sure that I don't cut into my caster there. All right. For a beaver this size, it doesn't feel like it really has very big casters, but it is a big female. I don't know if that makes a difference. I've never caught a big female like this in the spring, so I mean her, and then it's also, spring's been here for a little while, so I kind of wonder too if they already are out and been making their so what I'm doing is I'm just trimming a little bit of the membrane kind of away from the caster, and being careful not to cut the caster itself. But anyway, so I don't know if they've been out, so I'm basically lightly pinching the caster, because if you pinch them too hard, they'll actually squirt out, and I don't want to lose any of my valuable caster. So anyway, I kind of wonder if they've been out for a while and been marking their territories already. Had I been out maybe 2 weeks ago when the ice first went off, I maybe the caster would have maybe been a little forward. Okay, so there's one side. Again, there's basically just shells there. They're not, I actually cut a little hole right there. So I think I lost some of the juice, but okay, so we're just gonna get this kind of membrane cut off of the caster here. Once you get about so much of it cut off, then it seems like they come right out. Quite enough of this membrane cut off of it here. I don't know, for some reason I didn't get just the right membrane cut off of this side of it or something. I'm having a heck of a time here. Okay. There we go. Yeah, see, I actually cut a hole in my caster right here, which I did not want to do. And then, so I want to leave a good chunk of this here to kind of help seal that up, and I'll actually tie that shut so it's sealed up. But so I maybe leave more than other people do. I mean, nobody's really told me I've been doing it wrong, but see, and right there's the oil sac, and I don't want to cut that, so. Alright, so there's my set of casters. Again, they're basically just shells on this gal. It didn't hurt or didn't help that I cut a big hole in the top of it here. I might actually squirted out some of the caster juice, but All right, we're just gonna hang them right there for the time being. When I get done skinning this gal, I'll take those in and I'll show you how I hang them up to dry. All right, guys, so I'm just gonna show you the end of part 2 of my beaver handling series here. So the caster, I got it out of the 2 beaver, and then what I did is I just hung it in my basement here. So I'll show you what I got. So I got, this is out of that 66 pounder, this is out of that 30 pounder. All I do is I have 2 nails, so like 3/4 of an inch apart. These are maybe an inch apart because they're a little bit bigger set, and this one's hanging goofy. Maybe I twist it a little that way. Basically, I just don't want them touching each other in between here. Some guys will hang them on one nail, and then they lay flat like this, and then you gotta, after like a day or so, you gotta take them off and kind of fold them the opposite direction. Well, they never really hang very good that way, so this is what I've been doing. So they'll stay hanging there for like 3 or 4 days. Basically, they'll get good and dry on the outside, and then I'll take them down, I'll throw them in a little paper bag, and then I'll throw them in the freezer. And they can stay like that up until whenever I'm ready to sell them, which will be probably next spring. I'll have beaver caster from the fall or whatever, and these will go with them. So it can stay in the freezer as long as you want. Basically, before I sell it, I take it out of the freezer like the day before or whatever, because it'll build up a little bit of like condensation on the outside, or frost on the outside. So they'll kind of absorb that moisture again when they unthaw. So I usually take them out and I'll just hang them up for like a day beforehand. Alright guys, so it's been about a week since I showed you guys hanging up this caster. Typically, depending on how warm or whatever your room is, it doesn't take quite this long. Usually I let it hang about 3-4 days. It was a little bit cooler in my basement here, so it didn't dry quite as quick, but I'll show you what it looks like now. So I just, like I said, I got it hanging over the 2 nails just so I don't have to worry about turning it. So all I have to do is just kind of peel it up off the nails, and there's my caster. Obviously not the biggest set in the world, but pretty nice caster. They don't typically stick to the nails, but you see it kind of holds them apart so they don't touch each other while they're drying. Then I don't have to worry about touching them. And then what I do with them, I just take a little paper bag. This is from a hardware store, local hardware store, and I just throw it in this bag, and then I will kind of fold it up, and I'll throw it in the freezer. So I just stick this in the freezer now, and basically it will stay in the freezer. They can stay froze as long as you want them. Like these are actually these are spring beaver. I actually won't sell this until I sell my fall trapped, my furs and the beaver from the fall. So they'll probably be in the deep freeze here probably 8 months or something. It'll be just fine. Before I sell them, I take them out of the deep freeze and just kind of spread them out a little bit, because they kind of frost up like anything else in the freezer, and just let them, because they'll actually absorb a little of that frost when they're unthawing. So then I just kind of lay them out for like a few hours even, or overnight before I go to sell it, and then you're ready to go. I just want to thank you guys for watching Schmattz Outdoors. Leave comments down below. I'd like to hear what you guys think about this video. If you guys have better ways of doing it or know little tips and tricks, I'm open to take anything you guys got, and I know other people do too. Hit that subscribe button if you like these videos. Like I said, Part 3, the fleshing of the beaver, and Part 4, porting the beaver, will be coming out after this video. So subscribe so you know when those videos are coming out. Otherwise, thanks for watching Schmattz Outdoors.